Welcome, everyone, back to the Founders Only podcast, where we pick the brains of great founders to deliver actionable advice on how to be the leader of the pack. I am so excited today to have Danny Diaz as my special guest. Danny is the visionary founder of Peak Life Now, a dynamic wellness movement committed to guiding individuals toward peak performance and fulfillment in life. He's also the driving force behind UPX, a groundbreaking fitness experience revolutionizing our approach to physical health and mental performance. With an unwavering dedication to inspiring transformation, Danny is on a mission to empower lives for the better. Welcome, Danny.
Thank you. Appreciate you having me. It's always funny when you hear your bio read. It's like, oh.
All right. Not bad. I say so myself. Not bad. Yes. So, Danny, let's start by talking a little bit about your personal journey. So, knowing a little bit about your story, I know that you've had to overcome some adversity and overcome some limiting beliefs, which we all experience, especially as founders, where I feel like you go through just these massive transformation spurts or something, like becoming a leader of a group simultaneously growing as a human can be very challenging. But can you tell us a little bit about what your personal journey was like, coming from that overcoming adversity and those personal challenges to becoming a performance coach for others?
Yeah. I got to give a shout out to my parents. Like my parents said something to me when I was little, and they said, you can do anything, you can be anything you want, you can do anything you want. And I believe them. And, I would say that like my journey from where I've been to where I'm at has come through like these stages of life that I grew through, meaning, so like, I got wrapped up in drugs at an early age, right? I sold drugs for 17 years, right? Like, got arrested a handful of times, went to jail, like, did that whole thing. And it made me a totally different person. And then I changed that and I became a legitimate entrepreneur, right? Like, I started a real business and started a food truck, and that exploded, became listed on Forbes magazine, right? Like, now I've shifted from this bad lifestyle to like, now I'm gonna be in a good lifestyle, right? In the background though, I was still using those drugs that I'd sold for a long time. So habits, patterns were constantly like turning my life upside down. And even though there was areas that were accelerating, there was other areas that were dying in my life. And I think each like transformation I've had that's got me to this point has been like this growing through it. Like, there got to be a point where it was like, I can't sell drugs anymore. Like, that's not okay. Like, I have to stop. And there got to a point where I was like, I can't do drugs anymore. Like, I can't be drinking anymore. Like, I have to stop. Right? And then there was a point in my restaurant business where I had to leave that company because the business partnership was really bad. Right? And it was tearing apart my mental health. So now I've shifted away from some of these habits. My mental health is dwindling, right? Business growing, mental health burning to the ground, right? Stressed out all the time, like waking up 5 a.m., 100 miles an hour. Like, I'm already solving problems that there's already problems as soon as I wake up. So it was at this point that I told my wife, I was like, I think I'm going to like die. I think I'm going to have a heart attack. Right? Like, I'm really scared. So I'm like 33. I've got like 3 or 4 businesses in the restaurant, like between catering company, brick and mortar, bar, food truck, all these things running. And, I'm crumbling. Right. And I remember telling her, like, I'm gonna have a heart attack. Like, I don't think that this is not a way to live. Like, I've got all this great stuff over here, but it doesn't mean anything if I'm like falling to pieces. And this was, I would say, one of the most pivotal transformational points. My wife was like, why don't you start listening to Tony Robbins? And I was like, you mean that guy from the Shallow Hal movie? because that's all I knew was him from the Shallow Hal movie. And I did, and it all made sense.
Mm-hmm.
And then became like the next great like transition in my life, which took me to a point where I recognized I needed to leave my company, right? And like there was a whole nother ball game of like, oh man, like because it's not like I had a retirement that I had built. It's not like I've even worked in the real world. You know what I mean? Like I've worked sales jobs at companies, but it's just like total detachment, right? Like when you're done, you're done. And like here I was at like 35 years old, like I'm about to leave this company with nothing and like start from the bottom again. But I knew it was what I had to do. And that was like that next transition. And that led me deeper into personal development, which led me to getting certifications in certain practices and becoming a coach. So it was just this, I would say like, people ask me, well, how did you do it? I'm like, I just honestly, like, I just got to a point where like, I was sick of what was going on. Like when you get sick of like waking up stressed out at 5 a.m. all the time and being 150 miles an hour all day, like you either crumble and everything goes down, or you say, I'm sick and tired of this. What do I need to do? What I'm doing is not enough. And I think I got blessed with that clarity a lot of times in my life. And it's brought me to this, like, it's put me in a place of consistent evolution. And I think that very possibly is like the one thing that misses for a lot of us. We do evolution in certain areas, but we let other things burn. And I've learned on my journey that like I got to bring every ship up. Like we got to rise all the tides, right?
How did you get from that pivotal transformation where you're like, this is not the way I want my life to be, I need to move in a different direction, to actually realizing that you were perfectly positioned to be a coach?
So meaning like when I left the company and I left my restaurants?
When you left your restaurants and you transitioned
What was the moment that I decided to do it?
Why coaching? Because choosing coaching says a lot about you. There's not really that many people, in my experience, who move from running a business to coaching other entrepreneurs and other people to live a better life. And to maximize their productivity, follow their purpose and passion. How did you know this was your passion? How did you know this was what you were supposed to be doing? Because just from observing you, daily, I can see that you're doing something that's really from your heart. And I don't know if that's how you were living before in your previous businesses, but I can see that this has been the foundation you needed to really accelerate your own growth. So how did you know to pick this path?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's interesting. There's this moment that I never forget. And I'm not, this isn't the reason, but it's just cool. Like there's this moment where I was working at my restaurant. I was at the front register and I was early morning and I'm cooking and making food and running the store. And like this lady comes up and buys something and I was talking to her. She worked at WeWork next door. Mm-hmm. And I knew her, and I was like, we're still talking. I was like, what are you doing? She's like, I'm a life coach. And I was like, what is that? And I remember like, that sounds really cool. Like, I feel like I could do that, and then, but like, that was it. And this was like years ago, but I don't know. Like, I never forget it because I feel like the universe has our back and like God's always leaving these little clues for us. Mm-hmm. But I do know to answer this question. So when I got into personal development, I grabbed on. So like I started listening to it and it made sense. So like here I am, I get up at 4:00 in the morning. So like by 5 a.m. I would this is my first subscription I purchased was like the YouTube premium. So I could listen to like Tony Robbins, like stuff without like having interruptions all the time. Right. And I could put it in my pocket without turning the screen off. You know what I mean? Right. So like I get this and I'm like, all right, I'm going to do this. So I start listening to him at like 5 a.m. So from 5 until 11 a.m. when my restaurant's open, I'm listening to him. So 6 hours a day. Wow. And, and all the stuff I do in the morning at the restaurants, like getting catering orders, everything is like, it's I don't have to even think about it. It's all secondhand at this point. So I'm like brainwashing myself, right? Like just like all these old, like, wow, I used to like, wow, that is such a better way of thinking about things.
Yes.
and this is like this is like 8 years ago, right? So what's 8 years ago? 2015. So like I'm like writing stuff on Facebook, right? Like I'm making posts. Like this is before like really we used Facebook for this. This is like when it was just our friends. So I'm just like writing stuff that's like landing for me, leaving these cool little like things like, oh, try this, or I tried this, I did this thing. And my page, I remember looking back and like, I don't know if you ever like look back at old posts that give you reminders and have a real cringe. I have a lot. I have so many cringe memories that show up. I'm like, oh, I can't believe you posted that, like you loser. No. But like now there's this other period of like age 33 to like 35, like these 2-3 years of me just like I'm brainwashing myself, and it's like leaking out everywhere. It leaks out everything I do in my business, everything in my marriage is changing, like how I'm showing up and what I'm putting out on social media was in tune with that. When I left my company, I did like a Tony Robbins immersion experience. I had this radical experience. It was so crazy, and I get out, and then like when I left my company, like people were hitting me up, and it was like a couple restaurants asked me to come in and like do some consult. I want to take my store to a food truck. I want you to look at my kitchen. Can you help me move more efficiently? And I had so much time on my hands. And I was like, I felt so liberated and free. I was like, yeah, I was just doing it. I was like, yeah, no problem. I'll come down. I wasn't thinking about a business. I was just helping because I could, and I had the time. And I was like, oh my God, my life is back. I just got my life back. Right? Like 8 days a week I worked at that restaurant. And so like, I was doing it. A friend that was really overweight, that was, I was into my fitness. Like, can you help me out? So he's coming over to my house every morning at 6 a.m. I got another friend that works at personal trainer. He wants to grow his business. We're having meetings once a week. I had another friend that reaches out to me. He's just dealing emotional stuff. He just wants to like work through things. We're meeting once a week. And I got all this time in the world. So I'm like, yeah, let's meet. Oh, yeah, let's meet. So I'm just like having all these meetings with everybody consistently for like 4 months. And then I go get certified in NLP, neuro linguistic programming. This is like where Tony Robbins started. I'm like, all right, if that's where he started, I'm going to do that. Right. So I go and do that. And at this experience, it's like a group of like 70 people. I would say like 80% of them are coaches. And we just get really intimate, like we're in this room with these people for 15, 16 hours, sharing deep stuff, doing hypnotherapy. Like it's intimate. Right. And like at the end, this group that I was in, like the subgroup of 8 of us, this guy was like, hey man, he's like, I can't let you leave Chicago without announcing that you are a coach. Like, you're doing it. All these people that you meet with, he's like, you're already coaching them. You're just not charging them. You just decided that you just haven't decided that this is your business, but it's your business. It's your calling. It's like, we all see it. He's like, so you can't leave here without get a little choked up. And that was the moment. I was like, okay. And he's like, here's what you do. He's like, call those people that you meet. He's like, and tell them to Venmo you $20. Each one of them, and they're official clients. So I call them. I said, I need you to Venmo me $20. Don't even tell them what it's for. So I just need you to Venmo me $20. And he's like, every one of them did. I was like, you're officially a client. And I made a post. And then it was like, I had like 60 emails, and it was like
awesome.
Yeah.
Everybody saw it in you.
Yeah. It was a thing. So it just kind of took off. And then for me, it's always been like, it's a journey, like the coaching. It's interesting because I laugh because I made this joke the other day. I was like, yeah, the coaching industry is kind of like the restaurant industry. It's like just a bunch of people get in because they know how to make one recipe. They're like, I want to do this. I can do this shit. And then it's like 80% of people are bullshit and fail. Like, I don't mean, like, hey, but it's like, I was like, this it's so funny that, and just ironic that I'm from the restaurant industry, and now I'm in the coaching world. But I think for me, and like, I think what's allowed me, and maybe just been the driving force around like my ability to expand and grow and like actually put my footprint, out in this industry, is that I've been really transparent about everything. And I share a lot of my struggles, and I talk about all the bullshit and like the things that I'm learning about myself. Like I'm like, like I'm fucked up. Like I'm not bad, but like, we all are, right? Like I'm a super conscious man. You know what I mean? Like I'm really I got a
Aware. Yeah.
firm grip on my feminine. Like I do a lot, but like I got stuff to work on. And I'm really open about that because I feel like that's part of the issue with the industry, is that there's not enough authenticity behind the curtain. And, and look, we're all on our own journey. And I'm not talking bad about anybody, but it's like, I mean, we are all on our own journey. And, it's a learning process in this industry. Like I've learned some things from some coaches. I've learned some things about myself from working with some other people. I feel like being a student, being open about the growth, being open about the gaps, I think is what really sets powerful leaders and coaches apart in this industry. And I think that's just what's helped me, as a personal opinion, right? Like I could be totally off, but I think that's what's helped, is I've just been really like ears behind the curtain, right? Like I cry, I get afraid, like I've had financial crisis multiple times, like I've built tons of businesses that have failed, like I've learned a lot, like I'm not perfect, but I've done a lot of really extraordinary things. And it's come from a lot of practice. So I feel like I'm in a position to help people do the same.
There you go. That's what I was waiting to hear. Yes.
Oh yeah.
You have really positioned yourself to help others because of your own transformations and your own self-awareness, your own authenticity. And yeah. So let's talk a little bit more about Tony Robbins. What would you say for the entrepreneurs, okay, who are going to Tony Robbins in May? Like what are the top 3 things, if you can come up with 3, that lessons you learned from him that you feel apply specifically to being a founder?
Okay, well, I'll tell you what. I'm going to give you 3 things that you should definitely do going to this event if you're an entrepreneur and a founder.
Got it.
1, put down the mask and drop the guard. Don't try to sell yourself in the room. Let yourself experience the room. Don't try to win the conversations that you have. There's a lot of that. This experience can be a groundbreaking experience if you let it. And I think that comes from allowing us to just be nerd, be goofy, like just like let it all hang out and
just
like
be open. Mm-hmm.
Be super open, right? Like be super open. And like I was blessed with the opportunity to do that. I didn't have any, but I've been to other like big personal development events, and I have put on that mask, right? Like I don't want to say a mask, but like a posturing of like, what can I do to like be important in this room? How can I be important? How can I make this event expand my business? You know what I mean? Like versus like what the actual purpose of it is, which is to expand yourself, which leads to the domino effect of expanding your business.
Right? That's so interesting. I didn't even think about that. I didn't even think about using it in any type of lead generation, sales, networking capacity, which I didn't even think. I mean, yeah, I didn't even think about that, but that's a good point. What else? Anything else?
I would say biggest takeaways, man, that's the thing, is like it is different for everybody. I would say the biggest things that I experienced was I got visibility on blocks I had in place that I didn't know. So like things that I was like anger that I was holding on to for like past pain, or like things that had happened to me that I was still angry about, that I was taking out on like current relationships, or even in my business, or even in myself. Things like that. Like those are things that can be discovered. You can discover where you're having blocks, like from your energy to your mindset. You can find that stuff out there. If you can be open enough to experience that and go deep enough through the exercises that he does, you might clear up and plug $100,000 and $200,000 leaks in your business. I mean, like you can plug 7-figure leaks in your business if you go there and understand how energetically you can shift. That's what it's all about.
Got it. That's what I'm really looking forward to. I'm hopeful for transformation. Okay, so now let's talk about you and how you are what activities, mindset shifts, or daily practices or habits that you've integrated into your life that you're particularly proud of, that really help you be your best self, help you have the best day, help you be productive and cut through the noise and get shit done.
Yeah. Great question. What I'm particularly proud of. That's what made that a really great question. I'm particularly proud of becoming and training like an athlete. This is, I think, the great separator for extraordinary business owners and founders and people that do well.
I agree.
So there has been the short is that I had like 12 years of sciatic nerve pain in my back. On and off, would take me out here and there. I'd be down for 5 days. I'm good for 6 months. Then I'm down for 5 days. I sneeze and like I'm on the ground. And then all of a sudden I can't walk, right? Well, Pinnacle, 2019, my son's born. It got so bad, I lost the ability to walk for 90 days at the end of the year. And that was a breaking point. One of those points I spoke about that I was like, this is enough. So from that point, I never having run before, I committed to a mountain run, not knowing how long I was committing to. I found out it was 22 miles. I ended up running this run with my friend, and it transforms my entire life, right? So like I had to rebuild my back without surgery, and then I had to learn how to run, which I'd never, gym class, like 20 years, right? Like hadn't run. So, but became an ultra runner. Like I've run over 3,000 miles since July 25th of 2020. And that shift in my, like that routine, becoming an athlete, like training for something, it shifts everything. It changed everything. Becoming an ultra athlete and an endurance athlete, like the amount of things that it transfers to business and to life, and how to be better. Like, here's the thing, like, if we want to become a better speaker, we practice, right? If we want to become a better quarterback, we practice. But if we want to become better at life, like, where do we practice? How do I practice life? I don't wake up like today's a practice day. It's not how it works, right? So I heard Vishen from Mind Valley say recently, he's like, running a business is a lot like running a marathon. And it's 100% right. And life is a lot like running a marathon. And when because you have a start point, right? And you have a destination. And you have a route that will probably not end up being the exact route that you pick, right? Like something will show up and change. Something will break down along the way. No one is going to come and save you.
Right. And once you have to run halfway, you can't really turn around. Like you have to keep going.
Right. Yeah. And like, you're going to have to make powerful decisions in your weakest states. And by becoming an ultra athlete, by training that way, that's my practice. I practice making tough decisions in weakened states. I practice making sure that my mindset is unwavering, right? Like I practice knowing exactly where I'm going, exactly how to get there, and even how to navigate a route that's uncertain. That helps me be better in life. That's my number one thing, right? Like there's the morning, what is it? The miracle morning. It's fantastic, right? Meditation, journaling, exercise, silence, reflection, visioning, like, right? Vision board, all that stuff. Like, everything is great. I think the biggest issue that people have is they try to figure out how they have to do all of it. How can I do all of it? I got to do all of it. So they just get caught up. Pick one that works best for you.
Okay.
But I think ultimately, if you want to be the best at life, you have to understand that the body has to be a part of it. You have to stretch all the areas. You have to be stretching the capacity of how you like your heart, like how you regulate your emotions. You got to be stretching your mindset, right? Like how you think under pressure, how you create beliefs, right? Like you got to be sharpening your body because it's the vessel, right? It's what creates all the creative juices and all the hormones and the neurotransmitters and all the stuff that gets this business money-making machine going. So you do have to tend to everything, but if you're just getting started, pick what works, pick what feels good, let it lead to other things. This is a marathon. I think one of the biggest shifts I've made this year in my routine is remembering that it's a marathon, honoring that the turtle always wins the race, because our world is built on speed right now, and everything is about how I can take you there in 60 days, how I can take you there in 90 days, how I can shift you from 5 figures to 6 figures in 6 months. Like, and it's not a bad thing, but a lot of it is also faster than our human nature, I think, right? Like, but we latch onto it because we're potential seekers. We're like, yeah, like let's fucking go fast, right? But like, by slowing down this year, by training like an athlete, being super specific with what I put in my body so I can train right, that helps me be sharper in the office, helps me think clear, and ensures I get better sleep. It's like a accountability buddy, like that helps everything else run smoother.
So what time do you get up in the morning usually?
Early. So, between like 3 and 4:30, something like that.
And why do you do that?
So a huge part of it is also because I've been doing it for a long time. So like, I also want to be fair about that. Like, I don't use an alarm clock. I just wake up. So like when I wake up, I get up. My alarm was set for 3:40 today because I had to leave my house at 5 a.m. So I had it set for a day just in case, right? Because normal people sleep past 3:40 in the morning. So, the morning is a very sacred time for me. I carry a lot of responsibility. I carry a lot of energy. I hold a lot of space for a lot of people. And once the world wakes up, all the attachments that are hooked onto me, they start. People need me, right? And me personally, I need to be not needed to refill times.
Okay.
So in the morning, no one can touch me. Like no one is awake. I am ahead of everybody. And that allows me to really show up like when the day does start, like when I am seeing my son in the morning, when I am talking to like when all the energy is turned up, and then like I'm looking at client, messages, emails. Now I'm actually full of energy and I feel good. And I'm not trying to get my day started. Like I am ready. And when the day is done, like I am pretty fucking done.
So that was going to be my next question. What time do you go to bed if you are?
So lately I've been I would say before I started training for the race that I'm currently training for, I would say between sometimes I'm already falling asleep at like 8 o'clock, 8:30 on the couch, right? Like we sit down with our son and like we're winding down. Like I'm gonna probably fall asleep before him. But I would say that when we move to the bedroom and in between 9 and 10, I'm going to sleep. Lately though, my training is a lot more significant. Like I'm being a lot more intentional. I'm trying to get more sleep. So like now I'm like, the goal is like, I want to be like going into the bedroom at 8 o'clock. Like I know I'm going to be tired. There's no sense now in us like trying to hang out for 20 minutes, like we're going to do it this way. Plus me and my wife both work from home. So like we have all our special time during the day. Like we don't need to try to fix it at the end of the night. So it like my schedule allows that, right? Like I don't encourage people to just get up at 3 o'clock in the morning if like, I mean, some people are night owls. Some people get really creative at like between 11 8 or 11 p.m. and like
I'm a night owl. I don't know. I mean, I don't think I will be a nice person at all. If I get up at 3:40 consistent, like if that has to happen more than 2 days in a row, I don't think anybody will want to be around me because I'm literally going to turn into a Grinch.
yeah,
My skin literally might turn green. I might actually like I can't imagine. I mean, I would have to go to bed early. Like if I know I have to get up early. So for example, I'm in this executive program right now with Goldman Sachs, and it's every Thursday I have to drive to Baltimore. And I'm in Montgomery County, so it's an hour drive minimum, usually about an hour though. But I have to get up at 6 a.m. and 6 a.m. is like 3 o'clock. It might as well be 3 a.m. for me. Like I'm just, but I've been doing it though. And now, I mean, I know I have to do it. So it's really, I think secretly is going to help me get up earlier and earlier and earlier. And so I'm trying now to be like, okay, well, how do I transition from getting up one day a week at 6 and not, and I like starting my day early. You know what I mean? I kind of like it. But I know when I have to get up at 6 a.m., I got to go to bed really early because I need my 8 hours. I need my beauty
yeah,
rest. I cannot do less than 6 hours. It is not good
yeah.
for me long term. Like I'm not trying to look like I'm a girl, so it's different. But yeah, so you generally are going to bed at 8 something to get up at 3 or 4.
I would say that I average probably 6 hours of sleep, 6 to 7. I would like to work myself towards 8, and here's the thing, like when I tell people like, because people ask me about what's your routine? How do I set a better routine? How do I get more discipline?
Yeah.
And I think that like, again, like I think a lot of the issue in the industry in itself is like, there's like this so hype. It's like, if you do this, you're going to be successful. And like the truth is like, that's not really totally true. Right? Like you kind of need someone to help give you what are the things that will help you perform the best, and then how do you fit them into your schedule the right way, right? Like the real hack to being super disciplined, as I tell people, is like if you really like, if we're gonna really do it, like just do it every day. The only things that you don't think about are the things you do every day. You don't think about, should I brush my teeth today? Like you don't think about, should I take a shower? Most entrepreneurs, right? Sometimes, but like you don't think about these things, right?
Like it takes like 21 days to build a habit or something like that.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. It's like, yeah, maybe, but like, what are we trying to do? Like, are we trying to do it for 21 days? Like, and that's the thing. Everybody's like, well, if I do it for 90 days, I do this thing for 90 days. It's like, why are you doing it for 90 days? And for what? Like, why don't you just do it? Like, if you're doing it because it makes you feel better, like, what are we doing it for 90? What are we putting a cap on it for? So like, and that's why I also stress not to try to do everything. Don't try to meditate, journal, and work out and do this and do everything all the first time. Like pick one. I think training is the best because, I mean, biologically best, right? Like it's the healthiest thing.
It has the most benefits.
It has the most benefits, right? So
your emotional, it's just your body will be working in peak performance, right? So your body is working in peak performance and everything is connected, your mind and your energy, your emotional, your mental well-being. Like if you're feeling depressed or you have anxiety or whatever, all those things unlock when your body is running the best way that it can. It's so interesting to me. I always think like those times when for me, like I struggle with consistency for sure. And in every aspect of my life. And I just always have 8 million things on my mind. And so I get distracted.
I got something for you though, because it just made me realize like, oh my God, this is something from the Tony Robbins experience that you can really take away that I actually took away. So my morning thing, right? So like two things from here. Priming. He will stress about priming. Pay attention, right? Like it's part of the reason that I do what I do in the morning. It's why I feel so great when 7 and 8 o'clock rolls around. And it's the thing that I stress most of my people about, right? Like most business owners I work with have a family.
Mm-hmm.
And most business owners I've worked with have let that be the obstacle. And like
Mm-hmm.
most of them are waking up when their kids wake up.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, so like you're waking up, we're not primed, right? Like you're priming yourself with cortisol. Like you just wake up with stress. Like, you know, like so it's that little bit of head. So whether you're a night owl or a morning person, doesn't really matter. It's about giving yourself the cushion ahead of time, right? To like prime your day, right? To really put yourself in the best. So that's one of the things. The other thing, and this is how my morning got started. So he has this guy that speaks with him, and I don't want to steal his thunder, but he says out on stage, he's like, I've got a better life than you because I have more time than you. Is that true?
No.
And he's like, no, he's like, I'm serious. He's like, no, my life is actually better than yours. He's like, because I have more time than you. Is it true? And you're like, fuck, you know, I don't know. Is it? No, it's like, no, it can't be, right? Like, no, he's like, all right, well, he's like, what time do you get up? And this person's like, I get up at 6:30. He's like, what time do you get up? He's like, well, I get up at 5:30. He's like, great. He's like, I get up at 4:30. He's like, I get up 1 hour before you every day. He's like, and that 1 hour that I get up before you every day, at the end of the year, is 9 40-hour work weeks. He's like, I stacked up 9 40-hour work weeks while you were asleep. And do you know what I could do with 9 40-hour work weeks of blank slate? He's like, I got a better life than you because I have more time than you.
So wait,
and I was like, damn. I was like, shit.
Wait a minute, because I would say my response to this, if this man told me this, would be like, I go to bed an hour later than you.
I know, but like for the sake of the moment, right? For the sake of the moment, I was like, oh dang. I was like, what could I do if I woke up like an hour earlier every day? And that was where it started.
I think
no, and you're right? Like I don't totally, you're right. And it was just like, oh,
that you're getting the key you said, Danny, was that you get up before the people who need you are awake. That's really the key. That's the key. That's 100%. Yeah.
And that was when I started doing it for me, because before then I was just getting up for my restaurant. So I really wasn't priming anything. So 5.5 years ago was when it started. When it really was like, I'm going to get up for me. And now it's like second nature. It's just so easy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So then I have one more question about this movement. Then we're going to move on. So movement, how do I get more movement into my day? Because, you know, for me, I work behind a computer most of the time. And I'm in the house. Sometimes I'm not even outside at all for the whole day, which is bad. But how do I introduce more movement into my life? What do you think? Baby
steps. So the first thing I say is good for us getting movement in the morning. Right. Mm-hmm. And that can just be like a walk around your neighborhood. It can be the 10 to 15 minutes TMI between when you wake up and you have to go to the bathroom. You know, like, I mean, you know, to give yourself an extra 15 or 20 minutes of movement in the morning would really change a lot of your day. And then I would say, you know, there's so many like little 60-second, like 5-minute, like mobility movement things that you can do that are on YouTube. I think that there's such an abundance of movement things that we can do, right? That we just don't. And I remember when my back was really messed up and I had to like walk myself back to health. Like walking helped flush blood through the sciatic nerve area. So sitting, which is all I wanted to do because I was in so much pain, actually made it worse. And the more I
Mm,
walked, the more I would flush blood through that area and I would heal it. So I would just put myself in positions where I would walk more. So I'd park at the back of the parking lot.
mm-hmm.
You know, if I was in the city, I'd walk the 5 blocks or 6 blocks instead of taking the Uber. You know, like if it was a few flights of steps, I'd take the stairs instead of taking the elevator. There's a lot of opportunities that we have where we could walk a little extra,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that little bit of movement, it's a full body exercise, you know, like the little bit of movement, it's so good for us. So like if you want to make it simple, like start walking places when you try to park as close as possible to save yourself as much walking. Right. Yeah. Yeah, totally. I mean, like, look, we're all guilty of it.
Does your wife, is she as physical as you right now, or trying to be athletic?
No, my wife's a badass. She trains, she works out a lot, and she does want to start running. You know, I think like it's a whole like just the way I experience like life now and how much running's given me. Like she sees it and she's like, all right, I gotta get some of this. Like I gotta figure this. I want that, you know. And she, you know, she's always been super fit. And you know, since we had a baby and being a mom and traveling and everything, you know, and like running her own business, you know, it's like, you know, health is always the thing that goes first for all of us because it's
Yeah.
the longest payoff. So it's the one that we don't invest in as much. Right. So you know, but I would say that, you know, she's doing her thing. She's super fit, you know. I don't say that she's as the same as me, but I don't think a lot of people are. I'm a little nutty. Like
No,
not many
I've
people are trying
seen
to
it.
run 65 miles in January, you know, like
I think I've seen it consistently with really people who are really trying to maximize their performance just as a human. I see that they grab a hold of this physicality, this, especially men. I've seen this mostly with male founders who have started multiple businesses, who have tried to evolve personally, that they consistently are saying that the physical movement and, you know, the training, particularly the training, whether it be the, I can't remember what the Ironman and all the other kind of stuff, like doing those high intensity, long term training things for long or really really difficult athletic accomplishments, if you want to call it, or opportunities, events, whatever, have really been the biggest value add for them in that journey of trying to maximize their performance as a person. So
100%.
I definitely think you all are on to something, and I just need to grab a hold and follow along. Okay, so
Yeah.
now let's talk now about, let's go back to when you were telling the story about the gentleman who told you that you were a coach, just not paid for it yet, and
Yeah.
told you to you know, ask your pre-clients to become official clients and send you
Yeah.
some coins. So now, after you did that, tell me a little bit about how you found the most beneficial ways for you to generate leads for your business.
Well, you know, I would say that, I mean, okay, so visibility, right? If I want to use a hot topic word, it's visibility. So it's not that I'm not an expert on lead generation. I've just had really good organic lead generation.
And in
So
your
I think,
business, I think this is critical for
yeah,
it's really you don't really have other options the same way that other people do. So sorry, continue.
yeah, no, thank you. And you know, it's like for me, I think always being on social media, even when I was just building the restaurants, you know, there was such a buzz during that time. So like there was eyes on me. So I think in the beginning, it naturally kind of flowed a little bit towards me from everything I'd already generated, right? And 2020 is over and all shifted. So,
Okay.
and this is why I say visibility. So in 2020, when the pandemic starts, right? And it's like really weird, right? And like shit's fucking weird, excuse me, right? Like it's just weird, right? Like Like, if you're in DC, right? Like we had moved out to Northern Virginia, and like it's just everything was getting weird, right? So I'm like, I remember feeling like, God, man, like such a dark like energy. And I had this like whisper like I need to do something about it. Like I need to do something. So I was like, I'm gonna do 30 days of Facebook Lives at 6 a.m. so people can like start their day with something that's different than the fucking news right now. Right. And I was like, I'm gonna do this. Like this is something like I just feel called to do it. So I start doing this thing. And I remember it like day 17 being like waking up and being like, oh my God, like I'm so fucking tired. Like I could just, because I'm like getting up at like 3 o'clock. And this is before I was even that seasoned, right? And I'm like, oh, like I could just like, like no one would even know. I could just like get on like 7:30 or 8. Like, oh, it's like I could still do it. I just do it later. And no one would know. I did it and I got up. I did all of them. And at the end of it, the commitment wasn't even an issue anymore. Like I was in a zone, and like I was like what I was doing, I was like, oh, like just like when you want to get good at something, you practice it, right? Well, like you want to help people too. Like I was practicing, like delivering the magic that I have, delivering the medicine that I know to be helpful. And I'm just like delivering, and I'm like inputting and delivering, and I'm like feeling this high, and I'm like, I want to keep doing this. Like this is good. Like it's helping. Like I'm getting a lot of feedback. So I continued. I did like 150 lives that year in 2020. And by the end of 2020, I got someone reached out to me who was writing an article for Yahoo Finance. He's like, I've been following you for a while, for this year. He's like, he's like, I want to put you in this article as top 10 performance coach to follow. So it was like my first really big publication, like globally, right? So then like business is just like exploding, and because I just poured my heart out. Those 150 lives, like that, what I talked about in the beginning, like authentic Danny. Like I talked about some stories, man. I told some stories of my past. I told things that I had gone through. I told ways that I transformed, ways of thinking. I talked about intimacy stuff that with my wife, like, like all these things. Cause I was just like, look, like this is it. This is what I'm doing to make my life better. And it just took hold. So it continued. And I think when it comes to lead generation, like being visible, being consistent, like what I learned during 2020, now obviously it's 2023, like everything is different. There's reels now, like attention span's even shorter. Like I was doing like 15-30 minute lives. I had people tuned in, like it ain't the same. So it's a little different. But what was real was that by getting on at 6 a.m. every day, I developed trust with the people that were listening. And when they knew that I was going to be there every day at 6 a.m., they felt confident enough to share that with somebody else who would need my wisdom or need whatever, right? Would need to hear what I had to say. And they knew that I was going to be there because I was always there. So they would tell other people about it because their word would not get tarnished, and I would be there. And then those people would tell people. And there was something magical about that. I stated the time, and I was always there at that time. Right now, when the 30 days was done, I shifted. I ended up doing Monday, Wednesday, Fridays at like 7 a.m. But I was always there at 7 a.m. It's always there. Maybe a minute late, but like I was always there. Right? You could always count on me. And that was what really shifted it during that time. It was like knowing that at that day there was going to be something I could soak in. Yep. And I think the same is now, right? Like, it's omnipresence, right?
Yes.
So I would say that, and just saying yes to things, right? Like if you really want to do lead generation, like get out there, be a part of stuff, do podcasts, right? Be invited on shows, go on them, pour your heart out, help other people, support what they're doing.
Right.
Like give, like for me,
value. That's the key.
Yeah.
Free value. That's the key. The consistency too, for sure. So then a little bit more exploration on this, and then we'll wrap up. Talk about how you identify two things. Your target audience, like that that avatar for your business that you're like, oh, this is a perfect client for me to help. And how you navigated creating your offer, how you navigated how you were going to deliver your help once you got these lead.
Yeah, totally. My story is so weird. So like, my avatar has been interesting. I fought the niche hard when I entered the industry. They got a niche down. I was like, for what? Right. And I really just pushed back against it. I started working with men in 2020, and the direction I was going there really felt aligned, and it was working. And then something else shifted, and I was like, I can't do this anymore. Like, it needs to be everybody. And then all of us, it was like overnight. Like most of my clients graduated, they were men, and I was a full roster of women. It was weird, right? Like, it's interesting too, like the ultra endurance events that the retreats, the programs that I've held have been like 70% women, like badasses that are coming. Like, I want to be a badass again. I'm like, let's go. What I can say to people that are aspiring to get clarity on your avatar, I promise you that it will change the more you get comfortable with exactly who you are and what you offer. Feeling really grounded in that. I think for me, I wasn't grounded in it. I was like so new to like understand like what is it? Like, who is it? Like, 25 to 35, like 45, 30, 25 to 50, like, like, someone tell me, what do you see? Right? Like, what's the elevator pitch that I'm looking for? How do I shrink this thing into 5 words? Right? Like, how do I had a lot of trouble with it. So, right. So, but for me in my journey, so, personal self-worth, like really feeling worthy, like knowing that I'm enough, that's been my number one. That's been the gift that I get to struggle with, that I get to heal and grow through my journey. Over the last 18 months, 2 years has been the biggest growth spurt in that. Or really just knowing who I am, feeling so comfortable. Like when I talked about going to those events, needing to posture, it doesn't exist anymore. It feels grounded. Right now, I know who to call it. Now I know how to create the offer. But for 5 years, I did it the best that I could. Right. So I think, when you're dialing it in, what I would suggest, as you're on your journey to know yourself better, I would suggest remembering that you want to build a business by building raving fans.
Right.
It's not about hitting home runs all the time. Remember that base hits are really powerful. You don't have to reach for the stars and crack your clients over the head to get maximum results.
Mm-hmm.
Pick people that are good people that you want to work with, and be open to learning from clients that you realize you don't want to work with. And that's okay. And remember that 80% is better than nothing. So don't try to be perfect. Just put it out there.
Yes.
Put it out.
That's the key with the content too.
Yeah. So
my journey
exactly. Just do it.
I'm telling you, it is the real stifle for me. I know I as a female, I'm always thinking about, how do I look? Do I look okay? Am I having a bad day? Are people going to tell that I'm not in a good mood? Oh, is the lighting okay? I'm looking for perfection, not putting it out.
Right.
So this is
where all the holes are.
Yes. Gotta just do it with the content. You gotta just do it. We all struggle with wanting it to be perfect and things like that until we don't. And then we become consistent.
Yeah.
You have to do it for I had one really good piece of advice that I heard about this, is stop trying to put content out for you. If you don't put that content out for the person who's consuming it, you're doing a disservice to them.
Yeah.
You made a commitment to help those people, not to look perfect. So you have to put the content out to do it for them, you know?
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. This has been such a wonderful conversation.
Yeah, no problem. It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me on.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks everyone for tuning in today with Danny and I. And I hope that this was really transformational for you. I hope you got something out of it. And tune in next time. Thanks so much.